this is what we're going to do. This is what I think is best. But, if you're opening somewhere, like specifically as we are in different cities, like making sure you take a minute to be like, what are we trying to build? Where are we? Are we building something that makes sense for where I am?
Right.
So a lot of that talking to people before you're just like, this is what we're going to be. Because otherwise you're probably going to say, this is what we're going to be and look like. And then you're going to have to backtrack.
Hi, I'm Josh Owen. As the owner of a video marketing company in New Orleans, I've been on the quest to learn everything I can about marketing. Everyone has a different style, different strategy, and a different experience. Is there a wrong way to do it? A right way to do it? Let's find out together as we make marketing make sense. Welcome to another episode of Make Marketing Make Sense. Today I'm joined by Jordan McConnell, the marketing director of Common House, which is a fantastic concept that I'm intrigued to learn more about. And Jordan is going to tell us all about it. So welcome, Jordan.
I am. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, we are opening our fourth house in New Orleans.
Your fourth house?
Our fourth house.
Man, some people are struggling to get one house. You already got four.
We're opening our fourth, I know. But the whole concept is that it's really hard to meet people these days. And our co-founder noticed that the things that sort of typically bound us together have disappeared, like the bowling leagues and the neighborhood associations and the bridge clubs. And how can we create a space where people of all backgrounds can come together and socialize over food, drink, and experiences. I was listening to a podcast recently that said, I think between 2003 and 2022, Americans are socializing in person 30% less.
Oh, wow.
And obviously that takes a huge toll on your mental health.
I'm glad we're here talking and socializing.
We are here. We are in person.
We're beating that 30%.
Yeah. And so how do we, let people, it's not just a club for men, it's not just a club for creatives. Right. How do we let people of all different backgrounds come together and meet new people and connect? Awesome. And obviously people are also leaving cities like New York and these big places and want to live somewhere cool like New Orleans, but it's also hard to meet people when you get to a new city.
Well, that's definitely what I was going to ask is, you got these four houses. Where are all these houses?
So we started in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017. It's a tiny little town in Virginia.
Yeah, wow.
Our next club was in Richmond in 2020, which was in the middle of COVID, which is really fun to open a social club in the middle of COVID. And Chattanooga was 2021, which was also the middle of COVID. Right. So this is the first club since COVID, which is very exciting.
Fresh start, getting in there, hitting the ground running. There's no excuses this time.
Totally. Yeah, we're excited.
Wow. So that means that you're opening up spaces that you have, you or the team may not be familiar with at all.
We are. We open up, Charlottesville obviously was the first one. I'm based in Richmond, so there was some familiarity there, and I'd lived there for a while. Chattanooga was a totally new city to all of us. New Orleans, for the most part, is a new city to all of us. My husband is from here, so I'm very blessed that I get to come here for holidays. Yeah. But I still obviously don't know the city nearly as well as someone who's born here, someone who's lived here. And that is part of what we do when we go to a new city is almost immediately we hire locally. You've obviously met Raquel, who's our membership manager. She's wonderful.
Oh, man. Shout out to Raquel.
Shout out Raquel. Angela's our head of events. We have someone who works on the brand team. Someone that works with me is down here as well. Yeah. We have a programming manager, and they know the city way more than any of us would. And so we really lean on them to create the energy and the feeling of Common House because no two clubs should be the same because no two cities are the same. Right. Chattanooga and New Orleans are totally different cities. And when you go into a Common House, it shouldn't feel like this is a social club that was dropped here and it feels the same in every single city. It should feel like New Orleans and this respite for New Orleanians. So we lean on those people very heavily to create that feeling, whereas me at the operating company and my colleagues at the operating company provide more of the framework and the structure and the guidance, but they really create what does the house feel like.
Gotcha. Because what parts of what do they have? What are they touching? What are they influencing in the whole experience?
Raquel is the one that she's out there. She's helping form the membership committee, which obviously you're familiar with.
Yeah. I know a little bit about it.
Yeah. It's a group of 40-ish people who have all different backgrounds and work in all different fields. And we sell them into the concept of Common House, and they, in theory, are going out and selling it to their friends and family members. We see 80 to 90% of people that come from referrals, and so that group is really important to help sell on the concept and give a really diverse membership base from the very beginning. We also lean on them heavily to help create some of the events. So we'll have a crawfish boil tomorrow. We're hoping to have a huge turnout for that.
Yeah.
I was listening to your last podcast, or one of the last ones with Mariska from Salon 22.
Oh, look at that. What an avid listener over here and everything, bringing her in. All right, that's what I love.
But what an amazing concept. I really want to visit sometime when I'm in town.
Yeah.
But that idea of experiential marketing, the club doesn't exist yet. How do we bring the club to life for people so they can feel what does Common House feel like before it is open? So something like a crawfish bowl does that.
Right.
Something like tours in the house, which Raquel and Angela and Grayson, who's our brand person, all help lead tours through the house and say, like, this space will be this. This is what members will do here. Here's a rendering of the space. Here's what it will feel like to be a member ahead of time. Otherwise, it can feel like this really intangible concept that you're not really sure what it's going to be before we're open.
One question you're making me think about, which I haven't really asked you about it, but now I'm thinking about it, is how do you foster these referral relationships? You know, because you're mentioning these referrals, and you know, something I'm always curious about is how do you best foster those? Like, you know, you're asking these people to sell on your behalf. You know, they've got to know about the concept. Like, what are some of the things that you do to, you know, improve upon that process?
Yeah, we do for the membership and committee in particular. We host like an onboarding session and try and inform them that way. We have obviously printed materials. We invite them to a lot of smaller events where it's here's a happy hour for you and your friends so that you can sort of inform them more, because we do see the in-person helps a lot more. I mean, obviously we have email campaigns, we have social media, we do some print ads, we do a lot of partnerships that way, but I think it's the in-person, like talking to someone really helps. We've seen in talking to people, so for the Crawfish Bowl in particular, we're partnering with Turning Tables, and we have product donated by Louie Louie and Urban South and Porsche Jam, and so all these like local makers, which is really exciting. And every time we talk to them, like, you're a real person, this is amazing, we're excited about the concept. But I think off the bat, if you just sort of hear membership club, I think you can have this like idea in your head of like what a membership club is, and we're always sort of working against that, where we're trying to say, okay, we know what this has been in the past, but we're trying to be different. We're trying to be this inclusive space where anyone can join, and we also, you know, offer free memberships annually through our Common Ground program for people who couldn't afford to join, and that's something we feel very passionately about. And so trying to spread the word in person obviously goes a lot farther than just like seeing a rendering on social media and being like, okay, I get it.
That experiential marketing at work. Fantastic. I love that. I mean, well, you know, have you learned, what about like the culture of New Orleans? You know, what, I mean, obviously it's a very distinct culture, you know, and like bringing that in, you know, what if the things that you've learned about that as far as like your process and your journey through marketing, like, you know, building upon that and making sure you include that?
So this is what I love about my job, is that every single market is so different. It also makes it so stressful because it's not like what we did in Chattanooga works for New Orleans. But I've been really impressed by the creativity of this city. I have a background in advertising, but like at a really big, like 500 person plus ad agency. And so when I was at one point looking to move here, I kind of looked for that, and I didn't see that. There's a lot of amazing small brand agencies, but not like a huge one. And so I kind of immediately equated that to a lack of creativity, which was totally incorrect. And especially in this process, it seems like everyone, either in their actual job or their like side hustle, is immensely creative. Whether it's like a muralist or a textile artist or like an amazing baker, or, you know, like a lawyer who's involved in like the theater scene outside of work. It's like every single person is doing something in their side project, their hobbies, that is creative, where I haven't seen that in any other city. So it's been very refreshing. And also something that we're really excited about. Like, we're having local muralists come in and paint some of the spaces.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
We're having local artists have their art hung on the walls. I mentioned the Turning Tables and all the people we're working with for the Boil. But figuring out how we can partner with as many people as possible through our programming events, and like what the house actually feels like is really important. And there's so much to choose from.
Yeah, I guess like too, and obviously this isn't something that happened in New Orleans yet, but in these other cities, you know, there might be a lot of fervor with people like first initially being sold on an idea, but then seeing the thing come to life, you know, how do you like, you know, what are some of the challenges with like making sure you keep those expectations going, and like, and also, is there something you've learned about the process of like, oh, well, what do we need to say to people to keep them engaged, you know, throughout the year? Do people drop off? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, this construction project has stayed on track, thankfully, because we definitely see, you know,
that's not normal in New Orleans. I don't know how you pulled that off. Yeah,
I don't know either. But in most of our houses, we see a lot of delays, and it is hard to like say you joined, and you thought we were opening in June, but now we're not opening until next June. Like, they're obviously like, when you join something, you kind of want it immediately, obviously, because you're excited about that thing. And so we do try and keep in touch with people. You can visit like all the other common houses as soon as you're a member if you should be traveling. You get reciprocal club access. So we have this partner network of clubs throughout the world. So if you're traveling to Iceland or Austin or San Francisco, like you can go to one of those clubs, which is also exciting. But we do try, and we have some editorial content we try and push out to members. It's just like, here's what's happening in other clubs. Here's something that we care about right now. And just trying to already form those connections so people can feel like they're part of a community, even if like the physical building isn't quite open yet.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, when it comes to that kind of marketing and stuff like that, do you notice anything in particular with that you've learned about, things that you like, I guess like avenues that have been the most effective? Obviously the referral network seems like a potent one, but like what's really been the key, like the most key strategy? Member
referrals are definitely where we get most of the people, but obviously like you still need the members to refer someone.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so I think the events help a lot. Membership committee helps a lot. I mentioned we do offer some incentives, like you pay a lower initiation fee if you join ahead of opening. You don't need to be referred by a member if you join ahead of opening. So that helps some. I think that helps sort of seal the deal, but people are more likely to join if they've sort of heard about Common House in the past.
Yeah, man, those referrals, and you just keep them pumping.
Referrals,
You just keep them pumping out there.
Yeah.
And it's like, do you ever notice, I guess, like when you're talking about especially with New Orleans, I feel like one of the main things that I've noticed with the city, and I don't know if this is the case yet, but there's so many different diverse cultures,
Yes,
and like in maybe compared to other cities, as far as like, having all these people under one roof, do you a lot of people say pick your audience and like cater to them.
Yeah.
Like how are you picking and choosing your audience? And how are you catering to them?
Yeah, we don't. So that is part of what makes our job hard but exciting is that we really do. I think we would only in the sense of like if we feel like we opened and we don't have any of this type of audience, we would cater to them really specifically to try and get some of those types of whatever that audience might be. But in general, we really don't. We just say we want the interesting and interested. Like we just really want people who want to meet people and want to connect, and they don't want to just come at the beginning of the day and like have their laptop in the corner and their headphones on and like not talk to anyone and not look up. Like we want people who maybe they're coming to work, but they're coming to social co-work and they're sitting at a table and they're like, oh, I actually need a lawyer, or I actually need a photographer and you're a model, and like things like that, where they're like coming and they feel like rejuvenated at the end of the day because they've met so many people and made so many connections. And so that is like more of a mindset than it is like how someone looks or feels or what their background is. So trying to spread the word in that way, but obviously that makes it really difficult when you're like, you can't target people like in a social algorithm for that.
Yeah, and I guess like, it's hard, but I guess my thing is always, how do you develop that, like, because like how do you foster that mindset, because you want people with that mindset, like what do you do, like curating the space to really build on that mindset?
We have added, so I will say we've added co-working spaces as we've gone along. Our first house didn't even have a co-working space.
Oh, really? Wow.
And our first house had, you weren't allowed to have your phones.
Yeah.
It was just like,
oh, really?
You will be there and you will be connected.
It's like social. That's wow.
It's
That's like an experiment.
That we saw wasn't as successful as we wanted it to be. Like, obviously people still need to do these things. And by allowing people to work in the house, like it actually brings more people in. And then they still have these moments. So it's, we have since added co-working spaces, but the goal is that you come in and we always have a social club that has a bar as sort of like the feature of that space. And there's like lots of little nooks that you can be, but they're all kind of connected. There's no like closed off spaces. So the space itself is sort of conducive to overhearing conversations and to bringing your friends in and meeting with them, but then also talking to new people. We have conversation cards that we use sometimes for programming events that try and get like people talking about different types of things.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
We host these like free dinner series for like 10-ish members so that you join, and within like your first few months you're invited to the series where like you don't bring a friend, it's just you, and you're with 9 other people that you've never met with all different backgrounds, and you're forced to socialize.
Wow,
but people love it because it's
that's
like, who wouldn't want a 3-course dinner where you meet totally new people? So once we open, it's really easy.
Cool.
It's harder before we open to sort of sell that concept to people, but in general, we've seen people are excited.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I mean, I was curious about like what kind of events you were going to foster and build in the community. So it sounds like that's in the works, and those are going to be ready to
We host a
launch.
ton of programming events. The table, we call it like the table address series. So it's like table 420 will probably be what it's called since that's our address here. We host events like programming events, like a painting series or like a speaker series. Things that's like, oh, I'm interested in doing that, but also like a lot of other people are interested in that thing as well. And so it kind of makes this big network smaller. Or we'll host member-hosted happy hours. So it's like if you're a member and you have this really particular interest, like podcasting, you can host a podcasting happy hour.
Oh, hey, that's something right there. We'll get all the podcasters in one space, you know?
And then like, people come and they're sharing tips and networking. And so ideally we have, thousands of members, and so it's obvious that's a big group of people with a lot of different interests. So how then can we even make it smaller and say like, okay, of this membership base, here's like this really specific niche that you're really interested in, and you're gonna now be with 20 people that have that same interest and come and socialize.
Well, I'm very intrigued to see it all play out. So
I can't wait for you to host your podcasting.
That's what I'm saying. We'll have it going out there. Everybody's gonna have their moment on the mic. You know, it'll be like a. Well, I don't want to spoil too much. You'll hear about it soon. You know, to come. Well, the last thing I'm curious about is, would you be able to, maybe give me some quick tips for people? I think, having done it over and over again, I'm curious for other people that are, on the verge of launching something new, things that, you would suggest for like their branding and marketing. What are some of the things that you would say, focus on this the first, your top list? Like, what would be those things that you would really push for people to really make sure that they do for themselves, in their brands?
I think the sort of listen and research like first is really big. I think it's probably easy to just jump into, this is what we're going to do, this is what I think is best. But if you're opening somewhere like specifically as we are in different cities, like making sure you take a minute to be like, what are we trying to build? Where are we? Are we building something that makes sense for where I am?
Right.
So a lot of that talking to people before you're just like, this is what we're going to be, because otherwise you're probably going to say this is what we're going to be and look like, and then you're going to have to backtrack a little bit.
Oh, you definitely don't want to, under promise, over deliver.
Exactly. And I don't know what I would think about that.
Well, like, in particular, like with your brand, what's like some of the key things with for your brand when you're first getting your brand out there? Like, what would you say is like the key thing, for that messaging to make sure that comes through the most importantly? Yeah.
We very quickly from the beginning set up our social presence. We set up our email presence. We obviously have a brand already built from doing it in other cities that kind of feels a little bit analog, like a social club that could have existed 100 years ago, where it's like we love this idea of...
Because you almost have to... Because don't you have to formulate around the city a little bit? So it's like you have your brand, but you're also formulating around there.
Customizing it for...
So how does that, how does that work?
And even the house here is going to feel really different than our other houses. Like the interior design itself will feel different. So that is fun and a fun challenge. But I would say we do have a brand that is consistent across all the houses, and it looks and talks a certain way. Like we don't take ourselves too seriously, which I think is probably important for most brands, unless you are actually a serious brand that's doing some important life-saving work. But that is not what we're doing at Common Houses.
Really? No life-saving happy hours happening.
I would say having fun with it. We do a lot of member focuses where we interview members. We're trying to spotlight that energy of the people that already exist. I think editorial content is huge. I think right now it just feels like everyone's always asking things of us. Like if I go on my social feed, it's like, buy this thing or come to this thing. And it feels just really flashy and overwhelming. Whereas sometimes it's just nice to have here's a fun, slow article to read. Or just this thing that sort of takes you out of whatever headspace you're in right then and doesn't ask anything of you. It's just, here's something we thought would think is interesting. It actually doesn't relate to Common House at all. It's just a fun article about how crawfish are grown or whatever that might be,
Fostering that community through the shared common interest. The common
interest.
Love it.
I love what you did
there. I guess it sounds to me like people should be hitting up Common House pretty soon.
Common House.
What's the
we are
the
late
launch
June.
date? Late June.
Late June opening.
Late June.
It's
getting
gonna be
out
perfect
there.
weather in New Orleans.
Perfect weather. Nice and hot.
Not humid at all. It's gonna be
Love
perfect.
it.
We do have a rooftop pool.
Oh wow. Okay. Listen, if you haven't been sold at this point, the rooftop pool is where it's at.
Rooftop pool.
That's that you sold me already. With the rooftop bar.
We will have very functional AC, so it'll be this lovely respite in the middle of the summer.
I love that. Right in smack dab in downtown. You can come, have great events, network, socialize,
meet new people,
bring
new
connections.
People you know,
bring people you know, refer. It's gonna be great, And so you can hit it up with our promo code. No, I'm just kidding. But well, thank you so much. Where can people find you, Common House? If they want to learn more, where do they do that?
commonhouse.com/New Orleans.
Ooh, wow. All
Love
right.
That. Sound like a real podcaster.
Yeah, that's right. You got it on lock.
But on there, it has at the very top, it says how to apply. It has the pricing details. It has book a tour. So if anyone wants to tour pre-opening, we do 2 tours a week. Raquel hosts those. So there's more information there.
Nice.
Renderings, you can see the space, that type of thing.
Awesome. And on social media, is it
Social media, we are Common House NOLA.
Nice. Perfect. Love it. All right.
We're out there.
Anything else you want to highlight or
I don't
shout
think
out?
so. We're really excited to be here. I've been overwhelmed by how hospitable and welcoming and laid back the city is. I'm not sure I'm like laid back enough for this city. I have, like, a
everyone's
little too much
welcome
type A
here. Let me tell
personality.
you just need to. That just means you need to spend a little more time here.
I think I need to live here.
Acclimate to the slow pace. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There we go.
But it's been wonderful.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and
thanks
joining
for
me on this
having
journey.
me.
Yeah,
That worked out.
absolutely. Well, thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. This has been Make Marketing Make Sense, brought to you by Comfystone. If you need video content for social media, your website, or email marketing, hit up Comfystone at comfystone.com and follow Comfystone on Instagram and TikTok. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.